Hey everyone, welcome back to Fireside Conspiracies. I'm Nick, your host, and for tonight's episode, we're looking at something that's been on my mind lately. In the last episode of QuickFire, we looked at reports that the US government has encountered 4 different alien races. That, along with all the UAP and alien disclosure talk, has me wondering, what if the beings we call aliens aren't flying here from distant planets and spaceships, but stepping through from another dimension? What if angels, demons, and modern UFOs are all part of the same phenomenon, just seen through different lenses? So grab a drink, pull up a seat, and let's explore the interdimensional theory. Now, at first glance, that may sound a bit too sci-fi or fantastic, but there's real science and theory that make this a fascinating possibility, and it could explain a lot of the strangeness we've been seeing. Let's start with the big problem that never gets solved in the classic extraterrestrial story. Interstellar travel is insanely difficult. We're talking distances that boggle the mind. Our closest neighboring star, Proxima Centauri, is already over 4.2 light years away. That's more than 25 trillion miles. Most stars that might host planets are hundreds or even thousands of light years from us. To cross those gaps in any reasonable time frame, a ship would need to travel at a significant fraction of the speed of light, and the energy required is staggering. Just accelerating a small spacecraft to even 10% of light speed would demand more energy than our entire civilization currently produces in multiple years, and that is before you factor in slowing down at the other end. We're talking about propulsion systems that make our most advanced rockets look like children's toys. But let's grant that an advanced species has somehow figured out how to harness that level of power. There's still the time issue. Even at 10% the speed of light, a one-way trip to the nearest star would take over 40 years. To more interesting destinations, centuries or millennia. You'd either need multi-generational crews, suspended animation that actually works perfectly for hundreds of years, or some form of biological immortality. Add in the deadly hazards, constant bombardments of cosmic radiation and high energy particles that would fry DNA and electronics without massive shielding. Tiny specks of interstellar dust that would hit with explosive force at those speeds. And don't forget the fragility of biological bodies. Decades in microgravity, psychological isolation, and the sheer stress of living inside a metal can far from any planet. Even for a super advanced civilization with technology far beyond ours, crossing the galaxy in physical ships just seems wildly impractical. And yet, we keep hearing about craft that appear and disappear instantly, drop from the sky at impossible speeds, and move through water and air with no resistance. This has led many serious researchers, including some who used to be hardcore nuts and bolts believers, to ask a different question. What if they're not traveling here? What if they're already here, just operating on a different frequency or in a different dimension? This plays into one of the most intriguing ideas out there, the quarantined Earth theory. The idea is that Earth is intentionally isolated, like a cosmic nature preserve, a zoo, or even a prison planet. We're being watched, but direct open contact is being limited or prevented by design. From the scientific side, we have the zoo hypothesis, the theory that advanced civilizations are deliberately leaving us alone so we can develop naturally like animals in a wildlife preserve. Then there's the Fermi paradox of where is everybody? Back in 1950, physicist Enrico Fermi was talking with some colleagues when he suddenly asked that very question. Where is everybody? See, he believed that given how old and vast the universe is, and how many stars and planets there should be, advanced civilization should have had plenty of time to spread across the galaxy. Yet, we see no clear signs of them. No megastructures, no visiting fleets, no obvious radio signals. The contradiction between how likely alien life should be and how silent the cosmos actually is creates one of the biggest puzzles in science. A puzzle which becomes easier to solve if most intelligent life is either avoiding us, or we're being kept in a kind of quarantine because we're considered dangerous, immature, or part of a larger experiment. Some even point to physical features of our solar system as possible evidence of this isolation. Beyond the orbits of Neptune and Pluto lies the Kuiper Belt. And much farther out, thousands of times the distance from Earth to the Sun, there's the hypothesized Oort cloud, a vast spherical shell of icy bodies, comets, and debris surrounding our entire solar system. It's so distant and diffuse, we've never directly imaged it, yet it seems to act almost like a natural boundary or buffer zone. It makes me wonder if this distant cloud could be serving as kind of a fence around our cosmic backyard. From the religious side, this idea has deep roots. C.S. Lewis, author of the acclaimed Chronicles of Narnia, explored it powerfully in his space trilogy, calling Earth the silent planet, cut off for the rest of the cosmos because of rebellion and the influence of a dark power. Ellen White, a Christian author and visionary who lived during the turn of the 20th century, took this even further in her writings on the Great Controversy. She described a universe filled with millions of unfallen, inhabited worlds. Intelligent beings who have never sinned and who are intently watching Earth's drama unfold. See, she believed Earth is the one planet where the rebellion took hold. The focal point of a cosmic quarantine, where the full consequences of sin and the characters of God and Satan are being demonstrated for all creation to see. From this perspective, other worlds aren't coming here freely because this is the stage of a great controversy between God's and Satan's form of cosmic governance. Premature open contact could interfere with the unfolding of that plan. So, what if Earth really is under some form of quarantine? Not because we're insignificant, but because something profoundly important is playing out here. We can also look back at folklore and see for thousands of years, cultures all over the world have told stories of beings that don't quite fit our normal reality. Elves and fairies that appear and disappear. Jinn that grant wishes but operate by different rules. Bigfoot and other cryptids that leave tracks one moment, then seem to vanish into thin air the next. These entities often behave less like creatures from another planet and more like beings from another realm, slipping in and out of our perception and leaving us awed and confused. And that brings us to one of the most important points. Our senses are extremely limited. We only see a tiny sliver of the electromagnetic spectrum, visible light. We can't see infrared or ultraviolet, yet we can feel their effects as heat and sunburn. We experience only 5 primary senses in a universe that likely has many more dimensions. Now, understand it's a fundamental truth that everything in the universe is in constant vibration. At the deepest level, all matter, the air, the ground, even our own bodies, is made of atoms and molecules that are never truly still. They stretch, bend, twist, and oscillate at very specific natural frequencies. Quantum physics shows us that particles themselves behave like waves, and different substances and energies simply vibrate at different rates. What we call solid reality is really just our limited perception of these countless frequencies interacting. So, if other beings exist at higher or lower vibrational densities, they would naturally be invisible to us until, if they're capable, they shift their frequency to match our level. Many spiritual traditions and some modern researchers suggest that angels, demons, and what we call aliens exist at different vibrational densities. When they lower their vibration to interact with us, we see them. When they raise it again, they disappear from our sight. And look at the stories handed down for thousands of years. In the Bible, we repeatedly see beings appearing and vanishing in ways that defy our ordinary physics. In Genesis 18, angels appear to Abraham in human form, deliver their message, and then simply vanish. In Judges 6, the angel of the Lord appears to Gideon, sits under an oak tree, and disappears in a flash of fire after consuming an offering. In Luke 24, we're told that after the resurrection, Jesus himself appeared to the disciples in a locked room, shows them his wounds, and then vanishes from their sight. And in Acts 8, Philip, the evangelist, is suddenly snatched away by the Spirit after baptizing the Ethiopian eunuch, and reappears miles away in Azotus, in what can only be described as teleportation. In the Quran, the jinn are described as beings made from smokeless fire and can materialize, interact with humans, grant wishes or cause mischief, and then dematerialize back into their realm. Hindu and Buddhist texts speak of devas and other subtle beings who shift between realms of existence. And folklore around the world tells the same story. Celtic tales of fairies and elves, known as the Fae, describe them as the hidden folk who live in a parallel realm. They appear at twilight or near fairy mounds, interact with humans, and then vanish into thin air, often leaving the witness in a daze and wondering if it was a dream. Similar accounts exist with Native American spirit beings, Japanese yokai, and African traditions of ancestral entities that phase in and out of perception. These reoccurring patterns across cultures suggest something deeper than mass hallucination. They point to actual beings who can adjust their vibrational state, lowering it to become visible and tangible to us, then raising it again to disappear. And then there's one of the more unsettling hybrid ideas, one powerfully explored by religious demonologist and researcher Nathaniel Gillis. I first heard his theory back in October on James Strebel's Weird Wednesday, where Gillis proposed that we're not dealing with multiple unrelated visitors at all. Instead, a single, parasitic, non-human intelligence, ancient, interdimensional, and highly intelligent, has been operating behind the scenes for centuries. This entity, or unified field of entities, wears different masks to match whatever humanity is culturally primed to accept. In ancient times, it appeared as gods and titans. To our ancestors, it was demons, fairies, or spirits. In the spiritualist era, it was ghosts and elementals. And today, it shows up as advanced extraterrestrials with glowing craft and high technology. Same intelligence, different costumes. Same game, different rules. Gillis calls this a unified phenomenon. What we label as hauntings, poltergeists, alien abductions, and demonic encounters are often different expressions of the same force. It doesn't come from the stars and spaceships. It steps in from another realm, using mimicry and deception to influence, harvest, and sometimes even hybridize with humanity. This theory helps explain why so many encounters feel both unique to their time period and strangely familiar. Like every story is being written by the same author, just using different characters and costumes. The phenomenon adapts its appearance to match what we expect, but the underlying intelligence remains the same. And interestingly, to most religious and spiritual people around the world, this is not a foreign concept. They just haven't heard it applied in this way. So we have several overlapping theories. The classic extraterrestrial view, biological beings from other planets. The interdimensional view, beings operating from parallel realms or frequencies. The spiritual view, angels, demons, and fallen entities. And the hybrid idea that one group is masquerading as different entities throughout history. I personally lean toward the interdimensional theory because it helps reconcile so many of the problems interstellar travel presents with the undeniable phenomena humanity has encountered over the ages. And while Gillis' theory is a bit scary, I'd have to admit that us sharing this world with an unknown intelligent entity does sound more scientifically and philosophically possible than life forms traversing the dangers and vastness of space for multiple generations. Honestly, this whole subject leaves me sitting by the fire with a strange mix of wonder and caution. Our perception is limited. The universe is almost certainly far stranger than we can currently imagine. And whether these beings come from the stars, another dimension, or somewhere in between, one thing feels increasingly clear. We are not alone. And maybe, just maybe, we never have been. I want to thank y'all for stopping by the fire tonight. I'd love to hear where y'all stand on this. Do you lean more toward extraterrestrials, interdimensional beings, or something else entirely? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoyed the episode, liking, subscribing, and sharing really does help the channel. Thanks again, and remember, do your own research and never sell yourself short. Take care out there, and God bless.